Écoute mon cœur, où es-tu maintenant? Il s'agit d'attendre toute ma vie.
The thing that I love about this build is that you can get it running fairly early on the game, so you could say that this would be a early game, mid-game build. I have been using this bad boy on my second playthrough. I have been working on leveling different characters to play around with different weapons and to provide more builds and things like that, and this has been one of my favorites due to the versatility that the weapon offers to you and how agile and nimble, despite of being a somewhat of a heavy weapon, weird for a technique weapon. But the thing that I love about this is that you can just close the distance, you know, when you are trying to take advantage of the stagger bar of the enemy, and sometimes you are just in that last stages of the boss fight and you're just too far away from it. This guy is going to take care of that. And yeah, I mean, it's amazing. The thing is that it's just a Lies of P build. I have noticed that there's no way of really getting broken per se in this game. It's a little bit more balanced. But anyways, it's amazing. Let's talk about the stats first. Things that you should be prioritizing early on as you are leveling up is of course going to be technique. Now, vitality, vigor, and capacity, that is needed very much, pretty much for every single character, and I'd say that 20 on early stages of the game, mid-game, it's more than enough. It's not going to feel completely your pulse by using the pulses. It's not going to completely feel your health bar, but it's just more than enough to be able to survive things around there. And the thing is that vigor or stamina, it's a very stamina hungry game. I have to say that if you're not blocking properly, if you're not using your perfect blocks, which are very tight, that's something that we all know, this is just the perfect amount of vigor to be able to use the weapon, the weapon of choice that we have right here, which also, I do have to say, it consumes quite a lot of vigor, and the capacity just a little bit enough to be able to use some kind of defense, not to be completely out there in the open. And the weapon that we are using, it's actually quite heavy, so it's nice to have the 15 right here. Now, as for the technique is going to be the main stat. Things that I would level up first as we are just building the character would be focusing on 10 vigor, 10 vitality, and then 15 vitality as you level up. Once you have that established, focus on building your capacity because you're going to need the technique. The technique early on, you're not going to need it that much because you're going to be ramping up your damage a little bit more as you progress through the game. So focus a little bit more on the survivability for the early stages of the game. Once you feel that you are in a good spot, start focusing on technique. And if you're wondering what do I plan to keep leveling up in here, it's just a little bit more technique and vitality. I think that those are the main stats that I'm going to be pushing through. Maybe vitality to 30, I think that's a nice number, and I would like to discover the self-caps of technique. So yeah, I think that I'm going to ramp up that guy to all the way to 50 once I reach the end game with this specific character, so I'm still working with those numbers. So the weapon that we are using right here, this is something that you can get very early on the game. Just as you enter like the third area, the factory, that's where you're going to get this thing. And if you upgrade this bad boy, if you add a technique handle, technique crank to it, it's going to reach the handle, it's going to reach A on technique, which is ideal. And what I love about this weapon is that if you charge the heavy attack, it's going to close the distance and it's going to travel really hard. Now granted, I'm making a little change in here. I swapped the blade for the Great Sword of the Fates. This is something that you can purchase as well, something very early on in the game. And the main reason for that, you do not need to actually swap this thing. The main reason that I did that for is because I like the Link Slash. It gives you the use of Fate a little bit more on demand because you already have the Patient Slash, which is something that you can use to deal tremendous amounts of damage by taking advantage of that specific window of opportunity. But when you need to attack the faster enemies, which this game is plagued by faster enemies, you do need to have something fast to be able to manage it somehow. So that is why I chose to use this Great Sword of the Fate Blade. It also has tremendous amounts of reach. Like, the reach on this guy, it's really amazing. The basic weapon attacks are not going to be that fast. That's something that has to be said. That's something that it is true. But they are going to deal quite a lot of stagger poise damage and on a wide range. That's what I love about it as well. If you get cornered by several enemies, it has just more than enough range to hit them all at the same time and keep you on the safe spot right here. One more thing that we are using is Aegis, and the reason for that being is that this thing blocks an incoming attack, and as soon as you block that incoming attack, you are pushed back, but you deal damage. What I love about this combo is that because of the weapon of choice that we have right here, you can be pushed back, your safe spot, so you're dealing damage, you're in a safe spot, and then you charge your heavy attack to deal that much more heavy damage and posture damage. So this and a combo, it's a very powerful situation that has helped me destroy and melt so many bosses that were giving me issues. You know that the bosses in this game can be quite humbling. So that combo, you're blocked with your Aegis, you're knocked back, and when you're knocked back, you have just the safe distance to charge your weapon blade and get back in the game. One more thing that I love about the weapon is that, let's say that you're fighting a boss, and we have all been in that kind of situation where you have to just deal that stagger damage, but the boss is too far away from you, he's being too aggressive, so you get away. You make use of this combo, you use your block, you are knocked back, then you start charging, and then you deal that tremendous amounts of posture stagger damage that we desperately need on that fight. As for the weight of our character, you have enough capacity to be using a little bit heavier parts. Like you can see right here, we are still slightly heavy, although the thing is that this thing is going to reduce your stamina recovery quite a lot, and we'd not want that. So I ideally like to stay in this sweet spot that we have on 59%, but this is up to your personal preference. If you want to have a little bit more defense, then use a heavier frame. If you want to have a little bit more of stamina recovery, a little bit more of that timing on your dodges and that speediness that we really want, then this is what you want to be doing. As for the amulets, just the Puppet Destroyer's amulet, I like this thing, deals quite a lot of damage, and the Patience amulet. I haven't unlocked with this particular character the rest of the amulets, but there are some amazing choices. I think that the ideal things that you would want to have early game and before you start unlocking the rest of the amulets that you can change at your leisure, I think that the Patience amulet, it's just a amazing amulet that you can be using all purposes for every single different builds, and just the damage increase that you get from this guy. Damage is always better, and the cool thing is that this doesn't weight that much, so that's something on your favor as well. And not much left to be said, honestly. Like I said, the real bread and butter of this build is the mobility and the range that you have, the range capacity to be dealing damage while you are still guarding yourself quite a lot. So the ideal thing is to be using your Aegis to block your attacks, and once you're fighting those elite enemies, you can be getting back at them by dealing a lots of damage with your stagger potential of your charge attacks. And you also have your Y attacks, your Fable attacks, that you can have a little bit more control on them if you're using this particular blade. If you're not using this particular blade, you can be using the blade of the weapon. It's going to consume the three of them and make them on a flurry of attacks. That's fine, that's okay. I do not like it because there's very fast enemies in this game that are going to interrupt you, and I want to have control on them, me personally. So that's something that I like to do. Anyways, if you like the content, like and very super appreciated. And I also told you today that you're a gorgeous and beautiful person. You are indeed a gorgeous and beautiful person. I will be seeing you goddamn gorgeous and beautiful people in the next one. Have a beautiful day and goodbye.